Hello, Gophers. My name is Dominic St-Pierre. You're listening to Go Podcast. I'm a good old software engineer, passionate about building software as a service since 2008. I've been a huge fan of Go since 2014. And today we have some things to say before we start. I want to talk about Podman. But first of all, we've reached 50,000 download. Well, probably way more before because I keep forgetting to say that. So thank you very much for listening to this. Every time I hit record, it's not easy. It's not always easy to do podcasting. You have at the end of the day, there is 1,000 people that is listening to this, more or less each episode. This is kind of crazy when you think about that. So now that I'm talking about that, I started to be nervous a little bit. But yeah, thank you so much for that. So we have this little Slack channel on the Gopher, the Go Slack community. So it's called Go Podcast. If you want to join, we are slowly making it. I've stopped talking about that, but the thing that I would like to have as well is for this episode, as an example, I wanted to have some clip of people, and I think I thought of that too late, but it would be nice. So if you want to send me a small audio clip on the next topic of the podcast, I could have those played. We'll see what I've done for today, because I only received text messages. But yeah, if you can come, the Slack is there. I also started a Patreon because it's costly and things like that. So maybe I want to see if I can try to at least cover my bases and whatnot. So trying to I don't know if anyone wants to chip in. I'm not taking any sponsor. I'm not taking any ads or whatever. I'm trying to keep the pod as free as it can get. So today we are going to talk about. Oh no! Wait a minute. I've launched a course as well. So that's the last news. I'm sorry for the long intro, but yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. So it's called Zero to Gopher. So it's a course on Go fundamentals. I try to jam pack all I think that is necessary to start with Go. So sometimes sometimes you need a little bit of kick in the pants, if I can say that, to start into a new technology, a new language and whatnot. So if anyone wants to check out, there's always discount links on all the show notes for my courses. So on that, Podman, interesting. I've tried Podman a couple of years. I don't recall exactly where and how, but it was on my Windows WSL. So for those that don't know, before you start saying anything, yes, I'm using Windows. I'm blind. I need a screen reader. Sorry. The Orca project on Linux isn't working for me at the moment. This is something I have in my mind. As soon as I can, I will try to jump into Linux and try to even contribute to this project, because it's very close to my heart. But for now, I don't have the capacity to do that. So the alternative is to use Windows, because NVDA, which is my screen reader, is pretty well supported there. Long story short, so WSL is allowing me to at least stay all my day in the terminal. So this is how I've been working all my life and things like that. So it hasn't changed, even though now I cannot read my screen. So Podman, so I installed that, and I don't know, it worked for 1 or 2 weeks, and at some point it started being able to start and stop container and whatnot. Did not really investigate. I was like, wow, okay, because I don't know, at a certain point in time, Docker was extremely hard to install on WSL. I don't know if it's just me. I was running, I think, Ubuntu 22.04 at the time and whatnot. Pretty interesting stuff. So I was very happy about Podman. So, but it did not work. What is Podman? Maybe you haven't heard. Maybe you have heard. I don't know. So it's, it's, I don't even know how to describe it other than it's a rootless, orchestration, or at least container software that allows you to probably do everything that you can do with Docker, or at least what I am doing with Docker. I can do all of this with Podman. So what it means to be rootless? Well, if you don't know, Docker, the way it works is that you have this system daemon that needs to be installed, and generally you need kind of root access, or at least you need some privileges from a Linux user point of view to run multiple Docker commands and whatnot. And this this is not always possible, and probably and certainly not always the best thing to do, especially with bigger organization and whatnot. Sometimes you just can't do allow root access to all the developers and things like that. So again, on their machine, it's not really a problem, but when you are at the point where you are deploying those things, things starts to be interesting. So Podman has a different approach to that, and it's extremely brilliant when you think about that. So when you run the process, when you run anything, let's say you want to run a container from Podman. So what it does to prevent requiring any kind of daemon and whatnot, so it's kind of forking its own process. So me as the user ABC on my Linux machine, I'm able to start a container via the Podman command. Just by forking itself, it's able to run it side by side. So why Docker did not do that at first, I don't know. I was not there. Sometimes it's easy to react to things like multiple years later and say, wow, man, why it was not like that. But still, what Docker did, in my opinion, is pretty great in terms of developer experience and things like that. When you just think about the benefits that Docker brings to a team, for example, when a new developer comes to a team, a new software engineer comes to a team, I mean, the amount of time that it needs to set up a development environment, if everything is properly configured with Docker, or maybe Docker Compose and whatnot, I mean, this is nothing compared to when I started. I remember, and I'm not kidding you, when I started my second job in the industry, I needed to. So first of all, I came up to the office. So they gave me this crazy old Pentium. I think it was a Pentium 2 33 megahertz. Oh yeah, I said megahertz, right? Not gigahertz. And I needed to format this thing. I needed to install. We were using Visual Basic at the time, so I think it was still called Visual Studio, or maybe it was only Visual Basic. I don't even know. So I mean, I needed to format the machine because it was owned by an employee. Needed to format that thing. Needed to install Windows and Visual Studio or Visual Basic, whatever. Probably a SQL server, or maybe not. I don't recall exactly. The point is, I needed to install a lot of things, and we are talking about at least 2 days, maybe 3 if I'm not mistaken. This is kind of crazy. And even that, I mean, now you need to have someone that is there from a long time to install all the dependencies, because it's always about dependencies, right? so that kind of story, I'm not alone in this situation. There's a lot of people that can, that can tell stories like that. This is crazy, and this is where, to me, when I discovered Docker, this is the first real benefits that I've seen. That, oh my, this is good. This is, now we can at least have some ways to I don't know, to replicate a dev environment very easily. And there were other things like Vagrant and VMs in general and things like that. I mean, but again, Docker really brought this simplicity. So Podman, to me, bring a little bit more simplicity again, especially for my dev environment and whatnot. So you can do almost everything that you want. And I have some clips. So let's let's play a couple of clips. So again, I want to have some real audio clips from people. So I will try to push that on multiple Slacks where I am, but I would really appreciate it. I think it would bring some dynamisms to the podcast if I can have some kind of small audio clips. Could be comments, could be experience. So I wanted to ask for real world experience with Podman and whatnot. I received a couple of things. I had some great discussion, but it was only text. So I used text to speech to because my reading skill is really bad. First, I need to my screen reader needs to read that to me, and I would need to read that to you. So it's impossible for me to read on the mic. So AI it is for now, but I would really appreciate if for the future I would receive some real audio clip.
Well, I'm a big fan, not a fan of containers in general. However, they're a gateway drug to complexity. Yes, another hill I will die on.
Okay, so that was John Barber. So basically, John will come to the pod very soon. So he has some pretty interesting view on the container and whatnot. So I don't know if the clip was sounding okay in my DAW in my audio software. It's not. I don't know. I don't know if you heard. So basically, I did that new KO. So basically, I've looked a little bit about what it is. It seems to be a tool to containerize Go application. So yeah, so John does not seems to be very fond of container. And to be frank, I'm not using any kind of container myself when I'm deploying a Go application. So for me, I mean, this is the beauty of Go, especially my binary. I don't really see the point of containerizing my binary. Maybe if you need some kind of during the build time, if you need a lot of external dependencies and whatnot, having a dual Docker file, one with the build stage and one with the runtime stage makes sense. Usually my Go binary are pretty straightforward in terms of basically they are just backend server and whatnot. So I tend to let them go. To me, container is mainly when I need external dependencies, PostgreSQL, Redis, and whatnot. All the services that I don't want to install on my development machine. But yeah. So KO seems to be interesting. And again, I will talk with John very soon on the podcast. I think it will be a good episode. A lot of controversy potentially that I'm sensing, and those episodes are always nice to have. So Podman. So why I started playing with Podman recently. Well, to save some money, I kind of killed one of my DigitalOcean droplet the one that I use as a Docker host. So there were a couple of services that was running there. One of them was for a feature I have in my store, basically. So I'm basically selling online courses, and one important thing to me was always the purchasing power parity. So basically, if you are in a country where I don't know, 50 USD dollars is like a crazy amount of money, that there's no good reason for me to sell my course at a crazy price for people that it does not make sense. So what I'm doing is that I have a service that turns an IP address into a country, and I use a worldwide banking database. I don't even know what it is, but basically in there's the PPP, the purchasing power parity. So basically it's kind of a rate based on the USD dollar that you can apply. So I'm basically just applying that, and to do that I need a service. I found this project Echo IP that just maybe you know that basically it's the if you type if config I don't know that sh maybe, or there's a way to get your IP address on with a domain name that has the fconfig word in there. Basically they have this open source MIT project. And long story short, so I killed this droplet, and I did not wanted to install Docker on my, I would say, main server now, where I am deploying my my web application. So what I did is that I used Podman, and I thought it was a great use case for that, and because you still can do almost everything. So it's from the point of view of me needing a full-time background services, Podman is playing really nicely with systemd. Basically, you can generate a systemd unit file from the Podman. The command is like podman generate -- new -- systemd or something like that, and now you can name your container and things like that. Basically, I don't recall. I have all this. I did a blog post yesterday, so I will link that if you want to see the command. The main point is that it's playing nicely with the systemd, and systemd has a great way to deploy local user unit as well. So you might be familiar with systemd, the slash etc systemd/system directory, where you can create unit file that are system wide and whatnot. You can also create that for your own user and whatnot by using and you can use the systemctl with the -- user option. Now you are able to have some kind of unit file. You can also have some cron job like things. I haven't used that. One of my friends is always trying to convince me to ditch cron, but I'm not there yet. I will. This is on my list. There's so much things to do. I mean, how can we just keep up with everything that is? There's always something, and there's always someone telling you, oh, you should. No, you should not. You know what? That's a parenthesis. That's a tangent. I'm sorry, but stop feeling bad about not having checked something or things like that. At some point, maybe I'm getting old. I'm 45 now. I don't know. So where was I? Podman with systemd. So it's pretty great. So now you just need to tell the system that you want to start some processes with systemd for your user when you're not logged in. So basically, you don't want your server to restart and found that that your user service isn't running because your user is not logged in. So there's a way to enable the lingering. I don't even know what it is, but it needs to be done. So you enable that thing for your user, and now your server can reboot, and your local user system unit can just execute. This is extremely great. So from there, I mean, it's a systemd very, very standard unit file, and Podman offers you, I would dare say most if not all of the CLI command line. You can do a Podman pull, you can do a Podman run. Most of the flags are the same. The -d, -p for your port, -v for your volume. So it tries to keep very, very compatible with Docker. So if you know Docker, going to Podman is nothing, basically. The only thing that is new in terms of new idea is that it's going to run on your user local environment and whatnot. So it's completely isolated from each other. Very, very nice. So my services was up and running, and now my online my online shop, if you will, my web application that I'm using to sell my courses was now fixed, and this feature was back again. So that was a very nice use case for me in terms of not wanting to install the full Docker, but still I needed some services. Did not really wanted to. Even though the service that I'm running is still a Go build at the end of the day, but I did not wanted to provision an SSL certificate, because now you would need Nginx to have that and things like that. I mean, there's a lot of things that needs to be done that the container just did for me, if you will. Let's start another clip.
I think the greatest trick convincing the world that the need for the Docker daemon exists. There's definitely a place for containers, but it's not on my lawn. So I don't have Docker installed anymore, which means I get my disk space back, and if I ever do have to run a container, I'll probably use Podman.
So that was another John, so John Arundel this time. So I know that John is coming from the UK, so I use this this UK voice. So yeah, again, yes, this is going in the same line as John Barber, I guess. So the fact that Docker has this daemon seems to have caused some interesting emotion I would say. So yes, I understand that, and yes, I think Podman is kind of addressing this problem that we face, especially the way it's playing with Kubernetes as well. So you do have the same equivalence of Docker Compose as well, but you do have a nice way to run your pod, basically, because that's why it's called that. Basically, at first I think they were, well, I don't really know, but I guess their one of their first goal was probably to have an easier way to execute your Kubernetes cluster and whatnot, all the services and things like that. But at some point they probably added everything that Docker was from their point of view, maybe. So the Docker Compose is all replicated there. You have a Podman compose. Basically, you are consuming the same YAML file, and it's the same for the Docker file, right? You don't even need to change anything. Everything is just the same. You might need to fully qualify your image name. So if they are not present in their base directory, if I can say that, or their repository, you will need to prefix your image name with docker.io/repository, for example. That's not a huge problem. So basically, it's just it's just a small change that you might need to do on your Docker file and on your Docker Compose. So on that, let's jump on the next clip.
Probably Docker makes like Python. Dealing with all versions, packages and dependencies was a nightmare for me. For single binary. Probably only when you deal with Kubernetes.
That was Jakub Jarosz, which we talked recently in a podcast. I have to agree there that at some point, Python dependencies is a nightmare. That's where I propose UV on this discussion on the Slack. That this message happened basically. So UV is another great tool. So it's built. It was built on with Rust basically, and brings a lot of, I don't know, tranquility, for lack of a better word, in the Python ecosystem, in my opinion, basically related to dependencies and building and things like that. A really, really, really nice tool. Nonetheless, returning to my store, so I've said that a couple of times in this podcast already. I've took this small tangent at some point. I think it was 1 year, 2 years ago. I don't know, somewhere, and I started to build some Django application with Python. Just, I don't know. I was just looking for something else. Just sometimes it's kind of nice. Just like I'm doing a lot of Gleam these days. So does not mean that I'm thinking that Go isn't good for a certain type of application or whatnot. It's just, I don't know, just looking for some excitement at some point. So to me, Python is pretty much fixed with UV. So seems like people are or at least some of the comments that I received was related to containerizing application. That to me, container mostly are useful for, like I was saying, development environment, or maybe like I was saying, I was having this Docker host digital droplet where I was just running a lot of small services there, and just by the fact that they are containerized, it's not polluting your main OS. It's very, very easy to just mount a new system, redeploy your container and whatnot. So I mean, so in terms of application, I'm not very, very used to Dockerize my application myself, my main web server, especially, like I was saying. But again, your mileage may vary. So let's play the last clip.
I can't ever see containers for deployments, especially for Python applications. I don't like developing with containers locally, but using Docker Podman Compose seems necessary for applications with a lot of dependencies like Redis, Postgres, Kafka, etc. Also agree that UV is amazing. _smiling_face.
So that was Adam Yuri. So basically going in the same direction. I am going in the same direction. These days I'm mostly having like only a Postgres container always running, and most of my development on all my different projects just use that. Was having Redis for some time, and yes, when you need messaging and whatnot, a queue. So I mean, to me, that's where really I'm using most of Docker of Podman, basically, just to have some services that, frankly, I don't want to install Postgres on my machine. I'm switching, especially since I'm using WSL. So sometimes I'm just switching, a Linux version and whatnot very easily. I tend to prefer to have my services just configured in a file and just return to another environment and just run this, and everything is back up. So to me, this is probably where container shines the most, and this is what I have been using for a long time. So hopefully it was interesting. Podman is great. I think even on servers, I think it's a little bit more secure in a sense than Docker, since there's no root level requirements and things like that, and basically it's doing the same job. So far everything is fine, so hopefully I think it will be that for me, especially on my next development environment. I might not have Docker at all. So again, if you want to join the Slack, that would be nice. And also, if you want to check out my new course, there's some link in the show note. And on that, see you next week.